Live from Brother Jimmy's on Easton Avenue in New Brunswick, this is the Kyle Flood Show. Your chance to talk Rutgers football with the head coach of the Scarlet Knights.
Rutgers with 9 on the line. They're coming and blocked. They got it. He's going to go. Sideline 20, 10. Adios, compadres.
To be a part of the show, call toll-free 855-FLOOD-44. That's 855-FLOOD-44. Now we go inside Brother Jimmy's in New Brunswick. Alongside Eric LeGrand and Coach Kyle Flood, here's Chris Carlin.
Welcome, everybody, to another week of the Kyle Flood Show, live from Brother Jimmy's in downtown New Brunswick. Rutgers preparing to play University of Central Florida this coming Thursday night. We want you to be a part of the show. Our telephone number, 855-FLOOD-44. That's 855-356-6344. You can also tweet us your questions at @RFootball. Mr. LeGrand is on assignment this evening. And tonight, the coach, Kyle Flood, joins us as he does each and every week. We've got an earlier night tonight, considering we've got some basketball later on, and also we've got a Thursday night game, as I mentioned, down in Orlando. Coach, good to see you.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Good luck. Let me just say good luck to Eddie Jordan tonight. It was great to be on hand last week to watch the come-from-behind victory. It was exciting. A great brand of basketball. It was fun to watch, for sure.
We got a chance to see you on Thursday night, and then tonight they'll be taking on Canisius at 7:30 as part of the preseason NIT, and that'll be right here on WCTC, so make sure you keep it locked in all evening long. For you, it's been a challenging week. There's no doubt about that, and we'll start with some of the off-the-field stuff and some of the reports the last couple of days. First of all, let's start with the Ian Thomas report this morning from NJ.com that Ian, in fact, told NJ.com that he did not leave because he was planning to pursue a career in baseball somewhere else at some other school. At the time, that was what you said, so fill us in here. Give us your side of the story and how this all kind of played out here.
Well, I think a lot of people have already seen my press conference from after practice, and I can't speak to what Ian said to the reporter and what the interaction was or how in-depth the conversation actually was. But I do know this. When Ian decided to leave our program, I met with he and his dad, and we spoke, and baseball was a part of that conversation. And at that point, I asked Ian, I said, are you okay leaving your team at this point in the season? At which point he said yes. Now, the conversation was much longer than what I just described, but that's what the conversation was. And when he said that, then I thought it was in his best interest and our best interest to part ways and go on from there. And since then, we've been waiting to see if a release request would come in, and it hasn't. I know Ian is still enrolled in school at Rutgers, and Ian's a good person, and we wish him nothing but the best. My disappointment in the story is that the facts weren't straight. And I think had there been a little bit more investigation on the front end, the story would not have been painted in the way it was. And I felt that I had been painted as somebody who was less than honest, somebody that was dishonest. And I take this job very personally. I do my job with a lot of integrity, and I build my relationships the right way, and that's always starting with trust. And it was unfortunate that article got written the way it did.
Were you asked to respond to any of the points in the article?
I was not asked to respond to any of them. I was not asked any questions on the front end. I read it, and then I had to react to it after practice just because I knew it was not what I had been told. And it was not what Scott Walker had been told, who was our director of academic support for football. It's not what Jamal Morrell was told, which is one of his teammates. So, I think there's a lot of facts that were left out of that original story.
Okay. Well, the story from Friday, the school has made a statement about with Javon Tyree. Is there anything to add to that situation and what transpired? We know what the statement said on Friday night, that in essence that you felt that you had done your due diligence on the whole affair as it happened on more than one occasion.
We've already released a statement on that, and I'm not going to go any further other than to say what I said this afternoon then I'm comfortable with the way that was handled internally by the football program.
This morning, though, when you read it, I mean, you said you felt like it portrayed you as something being less than honest. I imagine that's a pretty frustrating situation when you read that first thing.
It is very frustrating, and it's not the type of journalism that I've been used to. I think the reporters on our beat have done a great job over the 9 years I've been here. Certainly I've dealt with them a lot more in the last 2 years or 2 seasons. And I've always felt like they've always asked the questions on the front end that give us an opportunity to respond to whatever it is, whether it's football related or off the field related. And to not have that opportunity and to have such an article come out like it did, I just thought it was unfortunate.
I'll ask you one more in general terms. When you have a player that's maybe frustrated by the fact that they're not getting the playing time that maybe they want, how do you handle that? What do you tell them if they vent their frustrations to you?
What I always do is I try to tell them stories of the players that I've been around that have been in the same position. It's very few players at this level of football that come in and become stars in their first year. That's just not the reality of major college football. And a lot of times it takes 2 or 3 years to get into that starting lineup. And we've had some great examples over the years. You know, a guy like Kevin Haslam always jumps out to me because he was an offensive lineman that I coached. You know, he didn't begin playing in games until his 3rd season and really wasn't a full-time starter until his 4th season and then played in the NFL. And there are a lot more stories like that. And those are much more common than the player who comes in, starts as a true freshman, stars as a true freshman, stays 3 years, and then moves on like Ray Rice or Anthony Davis or Kenny Britt. There's only 3 of those.
In terms of how the players have handled the last couple of days, in your postgame press conference after the loss to Cincinnati, you referenced it would be difficult not to acknowledge that there was certainly a little bit of a distraction factor to it. What have you taken here over the last couple of days from how your team's handled it?
I think after the game it would have been very naive of me to say that, and I try to be honest and try to have an honest interaction when they ask me questions like that. But I think this week has been very focused, and I told them at the beginning of the week we were going to be tested by distractions in a way we've never been tested before, and I think the team has done an excellent job. And we started our preparation Sunday night with our Tuesday practice, and then we came back right away and had our Wednesday practice this morning. And now we had, from the end of practice, about 3 days and 7.5 hours, before kickoff. And now we got to fine-tune all the little things that we've done over the last 18 hours and also get our legs back and get ready to play.
In hearing some of the comments from some of the players today and Saturday after the game, you could certainly sense that there was a lot of frustration on their part as to how particular aspects of the program were portrayed. Did you sense that too?
I did, and I think some of those things came out today in the comments from our players. Somebody had asked me about that, and I said, well, I think you're going to have access to our players in a couple minutes. Why don't you ask them? And I know when you speak to the players in our program, they'll tell you that the program is run the right way and that they enjoy being a part of our program and that they feel like they're being developed in more ways than just football.
Tom Lucci from the Star-Ledger earlier today had a story. You made reference to the coaches in the state and the state of Rutgers as a whole, and Tom talked to one of them, and Rich Hansen from St. Peter's Prep, and he certainly spoke to the way that you deal with people and the fact of your reputation around the state. And I guess that my question out of it would be, when you see something like that, is it reassuring? And have you heard that from people over the last couple of days? Have you heard from a lot of different people voicing their support for you?
I have. I've heard from a number of people, high school coaches that I have long-standing relationships with, guys like Rich Hansen, Greg Toll, Tony Karsich have always been very supportive of me at every step of my career. Fred Stengel, before he had retired, now he is retired. I saw him at Bergen Catholic last week when I was up there, and Nunzio Campanile, Rob Hinson down at Timber Creek, amongst others. They've always been very kind to me, and I've always appreciated their relationships. And I don't think that can happen without good, honest, interactive relationships. And for me to coach in the same region of the country like I have and recruit in the same region of the country like I have my entire career, that's what was even more disturbing to me about the implications of what that article was when it first came out.
All right, let's get into the game from the other day. The struggles on defense in the secondary in particular. What are you seeing when you're going back and you're looking at the struggles that you've had on that side of the ball right now?
Well, I think the first thing, if you just look at it from a macro standpoint, is we got to do a better job of limiting big plays. Now, to do that, I think we're getting caught in too many one-on-one situations with no help. So those are things that we've addressed this week on defense to help our guys on defense. Offensively, 2 interceptions is too many. Gary knows that. This week wasn't a situation of his decisions being a little bit off, but I think the accuracy and the timing, he knows he can do a better job with those things when he has the ball in his hand, and we're working hard to do that this week. And it's a quick turnaround. And in football, you have to acknowledge what happened, good or bad, because there is good and bad in every game. Not every play was a negative experience for every player on our team. There were things that were done in that game that were good. Unfortunately, when you have a score like that, they don't get noticed, and that's okay. But they got to acknowledge the things they did well, acknowledge the things they didn't do well. We've got to give them a better plan as coaches. I think we've done that this week, and we're excited to get back out there and play again.
Now, when you talked about the one-on-one situations, the spread seems to lend itself to trying to create those kind of mismatches, and you've talked about having to really buckle down when you're in those one-on-one situations. So is it a case of where certain guys are supposed to be in a certain place and not there for help, or is it just, getting beaten some spots one-on-one directly? That's all there is to it.
Well, I think we got beaten some one-on-one spots. I think we could have done a better job communicating in some other spots to help each other. I think it's a combination of both those things. And when you have a game like that, certainly when I look at it and I say, okay, Darius Hamilton's not playing, Lorenzo Waters is very limited, we're very young in the secondary, but nobody wants to hear that, and that's okay. There's no excuses, for our performance. We need to play better, and we know that. But we also know that we have a young group over there on defense that is getting better, and a young group on defense that for years to come is going to be really, really fine defensive unit. And they're learning a little bit on the run here, and people are getting to see that. But I'm excited about the direction of some of the players on that defense. Now we're looking Thursday night to kind of put that together and have a better effort as a group.
You got a little guy over there wearing the number 1 jersey who looks like he's ready to step in and he wants to play.
Yeah, I don't think it's Kyle Federico or Janarian Grant. That might be my little guy Joseph. He's pumped up about the radio show.
Well, he's pumped
I think he sees my man Joe Loman's hair, and he's got somebody he looks up to.
All right, well, let's get a phone call in. Our first phone call tonight comes from AJ. AJ, you are on the Kyle Flood Show. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
First of all, I want to wish you good luck this week.
Appreciate that, AJ.
Hope we take it to UCF. But I want to ask you 2 things if I could. The first thing is, you guys were talking about defensive backs. I go to the games with my son. My son's 13. He plays defensive back. He's a freshman in high school. But the defensive backs look like they give so much cushion. It's unbelievable. My son will pick out 5 out of 6 times who's going to get the ball. I mean, that wide receiver screen, I think Fresno ran it about 20 times. And since then, we've never made an adjustment. On top of that, we're not getting any pressure on the quarterback, of course, but it just seems like the cushions are I'd rather see them get beat deep than just be getting just wide open, nonstop up and down the field.
Well, I don't know if I really want either of those, but I understand your. But I'm going to put your son on my list of future defensive coaching candidates. We're going to get him on my short list. I like it. He can call out the plays 80% of the time. I like that now. I'll take that.
He picks who's going to, because he just looks at the cushion and he goes, that guy's going to be open. And we watch the play. That's it. The majority of the time, that's where the ball goes. But if he could see it, the opponents that are studying tape, they're going to see it. And it just seems like it's a repetitive thing. I don't see any adjustment on it.
Now, I think you have to. I promise you, and I assure you that if you would have watched the coaching tape with us, you would see the adjustments that we're trying to make, and we know we've got to do a better job of it. And I think it's got to be a combination of things. We need to be able to play some press man. We need to be able to play some off man. And then you also need to be able to play what they call press bail, where it looks like press, and then before the snap you get out of there and try at least to give the receivers and the quarterbacks a little bit of a different read on the leverage that they're going to get.
Okay. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention, if I could, the recent decommits. I think you had like 4 decommits last week. Do you think it's because of your policy is that they can't visit other schools? Which, I'll be honest with you, I kind of understand your point. Because if you're not going to offer other kids because you think you have a certain recruit locked up, I mean, for them to go visit is kind of like a kick in the butt. But do you think it's that reason, or do you think it's the method of the way we've been losing these last few games?
I think that every one of these situations is unique. And, my policy, I guess, I've heard this written. No one's asked me if I have a policy, but this is how I feel. When a player makes a commitment to us, that's like when you get engaged to your wife. And I don't think there's any smart man out there that would say that, hey, I would like to marry you in a year, but I'm going to date a few girls along the way, and don't worry, we'll catch up in a year and we'll get married. I don't think that's how commitment works, and I think this whole idea of commitment in recruiting has gotten a little bit watered down, and now you have things like soft verbal commitments. I'm not even sure what that means. When you put the word soft in front of commitment, I don't really understand that. So when a player makes a commitment to us, we make a commitment to them. We take a scholarship, we put it away for them. We don't come back 3 months later and tell them they can't have it. That's not how it works. And I expect them to do the same. And if they're not ready to do that, that's okay. That's part of the process. I think, for us, I don't know if in the past we've ever had so many high-profile recruits committed so early. And I think that now, as we move into the Big Ten and in the future of our recruiting classes, you're going to see the ebbs and flows of recruiting will become more the norm, and I think there'll be less reaction to it.
And just in general terms, because you obviously can't talk about specific guys, but when you talk about the recruiting season and how long it extends to and the course of doing it during the year, how do you handle that as a coach? What is the general approach about time frames with recruiting? You're talking about guys really committing early.
I think, again, it's all done on an individual basis. We've got some guys in our program, a guy like Batim Bujari, who committed very early, before he ever played a game as a junior, and stayed committed and didn't visit other schools, and that was the right process for him. And then we had a guy like Darius Hamilton, who took 5 visits and didn't commit until a couple days before signing date, and that was the process for him. And both of those are okay because they're open and you understand what it's going to be. This will be a good question. We got a guy right here who was a pretty good player in high school, Desmond Peoples. Desmond, how many visits did you take? 1? Okay, so Desmond Peoples is a guy who only took 1 visit, and it was here to Rutgers. At what point in your year did you commit?
Pretty early.
Before your senior year? Okay, so Desmond was committed before his senior year and didn't visit anywhere else. And again, to me, the word commitment has to mean something. And if the word commitment doesn't mean something in recruiting, I don't know how it's ever going to mean something when they're in the program.
Yeah, it means something in general. It just means something, period. And soft verbal, that's...
it's confusing.
Yeah, that's kind of... All right, man, maybe I'm interested, but okay, good enough. Let's take a timeout. We'll take our first.
I don't think my wife would have taken a soft verbal.
I know that mine would not have taken a soft verbal either. Doesn't take it when it has to do with taking out garbage and stuff like that around the house. You know what, honey? I'll make a soft verbal commitment to doing that. We'll get to that in just a little bit. We've got a lot to talk about. We're going to obviously talk about the matchup with UCF this week. Give us a call, 855-FLOOD-44. That's 855-356-6344. You can also tweet us your questions at @RFootball. We're Brother Jimmy's downtown New Brunswick on WCTC. Stay with us. This is the Kyle Flood Show.
Hey, everybody, this is Coach, and I want all you tried and true college football fans to enter the AT&T Be the Fan sweepstakes. Tackle my weekly challenge, and you might be the fan who wins a VIP trip to ESPN College Game Day. Find out how you can win at attbethefan.com. AT&T. Rethink possible.
No purchase necessary. Open to U.S. citizens and resident aliens of the 50 U.S. states or D.C. of the age of majority. Ends 11:59 p.m. Central Time, November 29, 2013. Official rules at attbethefan.com. Void where prohibited.
The chalkboard. Sweeps, screens. Every play is drawn up and studied. When you can visualize a play, you can execute a play. The same is true in business. The more visibility you have in your supply chain, the better your business performs. That's why UPS lets you track what comes in and what goes out. Logistics is our game. See how we can help yours at thenewlogistics.com. UPS, official logistics partner of the NCAA.
This is the Rutgers IMG Sports Network.
No matter what you earned your undergraduate degree in, an MBA from Rutgers Business School will help you build your brand and get you the skills you need to succeed in a tough job market. Rutgers MBA graduates get jobs. U.S. News & World Report recently ranked Rutgers among the top 20 business schools in job placement. With convenient locations in Newark, New Brunswick, Jersey City, and Morristown, Rutgers Business School offers flexible and convenient options to help you pursue your MBA full or part-time. Become part of Rutgers' passionate network of more than 30,000 business school alumni. Think MBA, think Rutgers Rutgers MBA.
For over 20 years in New York City, Brother Jimmy's Barbecue has been serving up great times as well as some of the best barbecue this side of North Carolina. And now Brother Jimmy's is opening in downtown New Brunswick on the corner of Easton Avenue and Wall Street. Planning a party? We have private rooms that suit all your needs. Or let Brother Jimmy's Catering bring the party to your office or home. So come on down to Brother Jimmy's and put some South in your mouth. For reservations and event information, visit us at BrotherJimmy's.com. Brother Jimmy's Barbecue, located at 5 Easton Avenue, New Brunswick, New Jersey. See y'all soon.
Back at Brother Jimmy's downtown New Brunswick, it is this week's edition of the Kyle Flood Show. Rutgers with a Thursday night affair down at the University of Central Florida, the Golden Knights. George O'Leary's team won a thriller the other day over Temple in Philadelphia on one of the great catches you'll see by J.J. Wharton. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. Let's get into some of the other aspects of the game the other day. You talked a little bit about Gary. How about P.J. James in his first game back? What did you see?
Well, I saw a guy who ran pretty well. He looked healthy, which was good because he looked healthy during the week. I think his offhand was a little slower than it was beforehand. I think in terms of the speed of the game and using his stiff arm, and those are things that I think he'll be better at this week as we get ready for the game. But by and by, I thought he played a good game. We just didn't have enough opportunities to give it to him.
When he gets out there, how important is it for him to absorb those first couple of hits just to know everything's okay?
That's a good question. I don't think any player ever admits that. But I do think, as a coach, and you watch the game and you see him get tackled and you see him get up, it certainly makes you feel more comfortable about him being back.
With Savon in particular, he got some runs as well, and it seems like lately, maybe not so much the other day. I meant to ask you this last week. He's become a little bit more of a weapon in terms of the passing game and has made some big receptions in some third downs, if memory serves here. Can you just kind of expand on how he has really developed in that part of his game?
Savon is a guy that since he's been on our program has been very unselfish, and when he gets in there on whether it's second down or third down, and he has an opportunity to catch the ball, he's caught it and he's advanced the ball for us. Now he did a little bit better job protecting in the game prior than this one. He did okay, just not as well as the game prior. So I think he's working hard to make sure he does a better job Thursday night. But I think to play running back in this system, you have to be a complete player, and all those guys are working very hard to do that. And to have multiple people that you can use in the game is always going to be an advantage for the coaches.
Dallas Hendrickson in his opportunity to start at center with the team a little bit banged up. How did you evaluate him after looking back at the tape?
I thought Dallas played a very steady game, and I thought he went very much unnoticed in the game, which is exactly what you would want from a guy who goes in there as your backup center, but playing against good defensive tackles. The defensive tackles were probably one of the strengths of that Cincinnati defense, and I thought by and by he did a good job.
Tyler Croft. Lately, he got some opportunities the other day, but the opportunities haven't come quite as much as we know. He's a little bit banged up earlier in the year. Are teams keying on him just a little bit more than maybe they were earlier because he was so productive early in the season?
There is no doubt that the teams, I'm not going to say they're changing their coverage structure to account for him, because I think that's a little bit tougher to do when you're playing against a tight end in the middle of the field. It's a little different than playing with an X or a Z on the outside. But I will say that you can tell within the coverages themselves, they're very aware of where Tyler is.
We've got our guy Scott is here, as usual, with the Riot Squad.
Hey, I saw my guy Scott at the basketball game. This guy, I'm just hoping Scott's attending classes because he appears to be at every sporting event on campus.
He just told me he's got the doubleheader tonight. He's going to the basketball game, right?
Oh, yeah, you know it.
Okay.
I'm missing for that for the world.
How many classes did you go to today? Tell the truth, shame the devil.
I went to two. I'm missing one.
No, don't tell me that.
All right, I'm missing none. It got canceled.
The only worst thing that you can tell him is a math class.
Right, don't tell me it was a math class. I'm going to throw you out of here like that little girl that time.
Well, first
What's up, Scott?
I just want to say, Coach, about that story, everybody that goes here to Rutgers, everybody that's had the pleasure of meeting you, we all know that you've been a class act during your time here. So
I appreciate that, Scott. Thank you.
I want to let you know how we feel about that. My question is about the passing game. Kind of struggled to get off the ground last week. I got some stats here. I think Leonte Carew, out of his 27 receptions, 17 have come in the fourth quarter or later, and that includes 8 of his 9 touchdowns. Do you think you might try and get him involved earlier in the game, maybe to jumpstart the offense against UCF?
You know, we're never not trying to get Leonte involved, but you've heard me say this before, in the passing game, the ball has to go where the coverage dictates the ball going. You can't just force it to one receiver. Certain coverages, the ball will get thrown in one area. If you could run the same passing play, they run a different coverage, the ball's going to get thrown somewhere else. And the reason Leonte catches those balls in the fourth quarter, I couldn't tell you for sure this is the reason, but I think if you went back and looked at it, some of those balls late in the game, teams are trying to pressure us. They're giving us one-on-one on the outside. And if Leonte gets one-on-one on the outside, we believe he's going to win, and that's where we want the ball to go. And it could be the same thing if Brandon Coleman was in that spot or Karan Pratt was in that spot.
All right, great. Thanks. Good luck on Thursday.
Thank you.
There's Scott.
Where are you watching from, Scott? That's what I want to know.
I'm going to be at the Rutgers Zone on Livingston. It's open to all Rutgers students, so we encourage everybody to come check it out. It's being hosted by the Riot Squad and Are You Sure? Pizza, ice cream, soft drinks, and you get to watch the game. It's a lot of fun.
All right.
I
like that. A little plug for Are You.
Crowd here, too, by the way. A lot of the Riot
Squad. Oh, I saw them
tonight.
beforehand now. All right, this is a little suspicious right here. Who's this guy?
Young man wearing a Kasim Green jersey.
All right, we got a Kasim Green or a Devin Carter fan, however you want to look at it.
Young man, what's your name? Where are you from?
I am Kyle Flood, and I am from Middlesex, New Jersey.
That's an awesome name, let me tell you that.
What's up, Kyle?
What is Brandon Coleman's middle name?
I'll tell you what, I think that's a great question. I think the last time I checked Brandon Coleman's birth certificate, I think it was Aloysius.
Aloysius?
Yeah, Brandon Aloysius Coleman.
Aloysius. Just making that up, I think. Whatever.
We'll confirm it with Brandon tomorrow after practice. We'll have to see.
And if he doesn't like it, that way.
Somebody pray. What's my name? Phil.
Yeah.
Phil Lewis.
He's ordering
his food. He doesn't. Text Brandon Coleman, ask him what his middle name is. All right, we'll get that one.
Let's get into a couple of more things. Defensive line. Somebody mentioned, a caller earlier mentioned the pass rush. What are you seeing with it right now that maybe you're not getting home nearly as often as you would like?
Yeah, we would like to, and I think what I'm seeing is sometimes teams protecting with 5 and triggering the ball quickly, and at other times teams protecting 6 on 4 and trying to keep us from getting there. And we've got some good effort, and I watched that film closely from last week, and there are quite a few times where we're about a step away from getting there, but a step away might as well be a mile away. So I think we got to do, again, we know we have to do a better job on defense, and we have to do a better job of disguising, mixing, all the things that we do so that we can get a better result.
2 special teams plays I wanted to ask you about. First of all, the onside kick. Was that just a case of where guys were just get off to a start to try to block ahead of time and get back a little too quickly, and that's something that they saw and wanted to take advantage of?
No, John Aiken was over there, and he actually didn't start early. He actually did a good job of not leaving until the ball was kicked, but he did a line a little bit inside of where he should have been. He was, and let me say this: it was not a lot inside. It was just a little bit inside of where he should be, and it was a perfectly executed kick. And I got to give credit to them, and that is not an easy kick to perform that way. They did a nice job. They ran a different surprise onside earlier in the year, a little bit of a bunt dribble down the middle against, I believe, it was SMU. But the pop kick was something we hadn't seen, and very, very well executed on their part.
And on the fake punt, which really wasn't designed to be a fake punt, you were about to get home on a block there. Just as simple as the kid stepping to the outside and a little over pursuit.
And we would have, yes, and we would have blocked it.
Yeah.
And we had a guy to the block point where we wanted him to be. But you know what? We're not going to get scared out of blocking kicks because of one play. That is for sure. Mm-hmm. We are a block team. We're going to be a block team as we go forward. And when we line up this week, we will be trying to block a punt.
Is there any other way to possibly account for that?
You could pop guys out from the other side, but anytime you do that,
well, I mean, without taking away from the aggression,
you can. But anytime you do that, it alters how many people they commit to the protection. It gives them a better chance to protect it. Now, we did have I can't remember right now who exactly it was, but we did have somebody there unblocked to the ball, and we didn't get him on the ground. We didn't take a great angle, but we are going to continue as a block team. That I can assure you.
It was from the left side. I know that. Just schematically, when teams have the 3 personal protectors kind of lined up as they did the other
shield
day,
punt.
It's called a shield punt.
Shield punt.
Okay, and in watching the punter, he both kicked it rugby style and straight on. How does that change how you attack a potential punter at a block?
There's a couple different ways that you attack it without getting into all the schematics of it, because I don't know how many teams really try to do it the way we do it. You have to have a plan each week for how you're going to attack their shield punt and how you're going to have to attack what we call a spread punt, what other people call a pro-style punt, more of a pro-style punt. And attacking a pro-style punt is a little bit more like attacking pass protection. Attacking a shield punt is a little bit more unique in how you have to do it.
All right, let's take a timeout. We'll get to Joe in New Brunswick, who is on the phones in just a few moments. We'll take your questions on Twitter at RFootball for the coach, Kyle Flood. We'll get into this matchup with Central Florida on Thursday night in just a moment. Stay with us. This is the Kyle Flood Show.
Excuse me, is that your Diet Pepsi?
Sofia Vergara. Yeah, this is my Diet Pepsi. I love Diet Pepsi.
Do you love every sip?
Nothing is better than drinking a refreshing Diet Pepsi and just reveling in its crisp, delicious taste.
Well, you know what they say. If you love something, let it go. And if it comes back, it was meant to be.
So I should set this Diet Pepsi free and wait for it to come back. Then it'll be more delicious than ever. Would you hold my Diet Pepsi for me?
I'd love to.
Thank you. What happens now?
Go, get out of here. It can't come back to you if you're standing next to it.
Thanks, Sophia. I'll wait for you, Diet Pepsi.
The only thing better than an ice-cold Diet Pepsi is a free ice-cold Diet Pepsi.
Love every sip at dietpepsi.com.
This is the Rutgers IMG Sports Network.
Like so many soldiers returning home from combat, adjusting to life as a civilian hasn't been easy for retired Army Staff Sergeant Ben Dellinger.
The hardest part was getting out. You don't lose your friends, but basically all those people get taken away from you all at once. It felt like my life was over at times. Everything I thought I was totally different.
American heroes like Ben face many challenges when they return home. That's why, for more than 90 years, Bank of America has partnered with military organizations to support jobs, housing, and critical needs of veterans and their families. We're also committed to recruiting and hiring veterans, reservists, and military spouses. And for Ben, we partnered with Military Warrior Support Foundation to award his family a mortgage-free home.
This is something I never expected to happen, and I'm truly grateful to each and every person involved.
To find out more about Bank of America's efforts, visit bankofamerica.com/military support. 2013 Bank of America Corporation. Bank of America, N.A. member FDIC.
Brother Jimmy's in downtown New Brunswick this site. It is the Kyle Flood Show. Rutgers preparing for a Thursday night matchup down in Orlando against the University of Central Florida. We want to take your calls. We'll take them at 855, Flood 44. That's 855-356-6344. Joe in New Brunswick is up next on the Kyle Flood Show. Joe, how are you?
Good evening, Coach. I had a question for you. In the game on Saturday when the result was pretty much determined, why don't we put a Rankin or Vermonti in as quarterback to get a few snaps? Consider the future, and Dodd's going to be leaving. To give him a little experience, a little game action.
A couple people have asked me that question this week, and not on camera, but off the record. And I understand why fans might think that. But Chase right now is our backup, and he is one play away from being our starter. And I thought we had an opportunity, to get him some work and to get him some throws and give him an opportunity to read some live defenses that in a situation where it wasn't in practice. And we've got a lot of football left to play this year. And Chase Dodd is a guy that's very valuable to us, and somebody hang on a second, and somebody that in a moment's notice is going to have to be our full-time starter. So I thought it was in the best interest of the team to get him to work.
No, sure. It's just next year you're going to go into with no backup and no experience. That's why I was wondering.
All right, Joe. We appreciate the telephone call. Again, our phone number, 855-FLOOD-44. That's 855-356-6344. And send your questions on Twitter at RFootball. Let's talk a little bit about the Thursday night affair. We've discussed this particular topic a few times, but I certainly think it bears mentioning again. The short turnaround. How do you handle that in terms of practice with the team and what you do when and what you have to cut back on?
In college football, your schedule is your schedule because it has to work around the class times. So for us, during the week, we are a morning schedule team. So It's a little bit trickier for us on the front end, but I think we reap the rewards of it on the back end of the week, even though it's a short week. And by that, I mean this. We started Sunday evening with what would be our normal Tuesday install and our Tuesday practice, and we practiced a little bit less than we normally would, but we got everything installed in the team periods and practiced. And then the players have about 11 hours to recover, have dinner, hydrate their bodies, go to sleep, wake up, and then it's Wednesday for us. And I thought we did a pretty good job as a team, and I say that because I thought we ran around well today. And by the end of practice, do the legs look a little bit heavy? Sure they do, because we played a game Saturday, then we practiced Sunday night, then we practiced Monday morning. But now, from the end of practice, we had about 3 days and 7 hours to get our bodies ready to play a physical football game Thursday night and clean up all the finer details of the game plan. And I feel like we're well positioned to do that.
All right, let's talk about this matchup. And certainly Central Florida's having a terrific year. They're currently ranked 17th in the country and 8-1. Their lone loss coming at home to South Carolina early in the year. They're 5-0 in conference play, as we said. A thriller the other day against Temple down in Philadelphia. So what does George O'Leary have in store here? What have we seen for, this season in preparing for UCF?
Coach O'Leary, I had a chance to meet him a couple of years ago when we played them in the bowl game. And Coach O'Leary's a New York native, I believe a Long Island native. He was a Long Island high school coach at Central Islip years ago and was a good friend of a gentleman by the name of Tom Marshall, who was the head football coach at CW Post and the guy who gave me my first college job. And I know that back in the day as a high school coach, they were very good friends. And so I've had a chance to meet Coach O'Leary and somebody whose career I've always followed as a fellow New Yorker. And this is probably his best team. He's got one heck of a football team. And the leader of their team is their quarterback, Blake Bortles. I think everybody knows about him. 19 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 68% completion percentage. Runs the ball very well. And just does a great job of managing the game. And much like our quarterback wants the ball in his hands at the end of the game, I think that showed up against the Temple Owls last week. And they've got 2 really good running backs, each one averaging over 5 yards a carry. They've got 4 main receivers. They've got one guy that's kind of questionable for the game, Brashard Perryman, who's a fine football player. And that's 21-yard average on 27 carries is pretty impressive. I'm not sure yet if they've declared him in or out for the game. And they're scoring 35 points a game. They've got a complete team. They want to run the ball. They're about 60% run overall. A little closer to 50-50 in certain personnel groups, but a tremendous challenge, I think, for us defensively, and another really fine quarterback to play against this week.
What does Bortles do so well that makes him so effective?
I think like any quarterback who has a lot of success, he certainly has a talented arm, but much more important than that, he's an excellent decision maker.
How about on the defensive side? What have we seen from that side of the ball?
A little bit of an interesting stat. It's the top 7 tacklers on their team are at the linebacker and safety positions. And that was interesting. Their defensive linemen, I think, do a good job of taking up the blocks and allowing those guys to run free and make the play. They're probably their most productive players. Their middle linebacker, Terrence Plummer, 6'1", 234-pound junior. But they've got good players everywhere. Their outside linebackers have 50 and 55 tackles, 2.5 TFLs, 3.5 TFLs. They both have 2 interceptions. They're not overly complicated with what they do on defense, but they're physical. They run to the football, and they're very disciplined. You mentioned the bowl game a few years ago, and because it is a game that features an opponent in an area in which Rutgers heavily recruits, how does that play into it? I think it's always a little bit more enjoyable for those kids from Florida to go home to Florida and play, and I've experienced that over my career. When we've traveled to South Florida to play, when we traveled to FIU to play, when we played in the bowl games down in Florida. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of times their families will come. Even if they're from South Florida, they come to Orlando, or if they're from Tampa, they come to South Florida, wherever it happened to be. And I know that they're always a little bit extra juiced up for the game, which I think is great. You don't need any more motivation than being 1-0, but there is something special about playing in front of your family at home. And
it's a unique opportunity, I would think, for your coaching staff to get a chance. I don't know if that's a dead period or not, or what the calendar is, but when you, at least this past year, it might have been a dead period around the bowl game.
It was, yes.
But in past years, I don't think it was. Just in terms of those kids getting a chance, potential recruits getting a chance to see you play up close and personal. Have you found that has a profound effect on recruiting?
I think it does. I think, we've got some players committed down there in Florida. I know one or two of them may come to the game. We're not allowed to have any contact with them because we're off campus, so that's just how it works. But I know they're excited about coming, and I think it'll be a fun game for them to watch.
Jeremy Deering, one of those guys that gets to go home this week from Florida, and he's, of course, at the safety position from in the Tampa area, where just a couple hours away from home. With going to on the road, again, the short week factor, but even more so that it's on the road. You mentioned the hydration. What do you tell the players in terms of the maintenance factors in getting ready for a short turnaround like this?
Well, you always have to get your rest because your body heals the best when you're sleeping. So I think getting the right amount of sleep leading up to it is always critical. You try to eliminate the distractions. And as I said in the beginning of the show, we're going to be tested in ways we've never been tested in terms of the amount of distractions that are trying to get at us in our preparation. And I think so far we've done a very good job of that. And the hydration, you have to do it certainly because you're going to get on a plane. But anytime you're talking about hydration for an athletic event, that's not the day of, that's not 24 hours before. That process has to start 48 hours before the game to really do it right.
Right. And I've always heard you say this to the players a day or two at events. I come to the Thursday practices a lot, and what's one of the first things you tell them as you're wrapping up practice? Take care of your bodies. Take care of your bodies. So when you tell them that, outside of the hydration, what are you telling them to do? What's involved in that?
It's hydration. It's getting in the cold tubs in the training room. Maybe it's going into the training room and using the stim machine or using the ice packs or talking to Dave and Arno and Mike about anything else they can do so that they can feel better. Maybe it's having somebody help them stretch, so that before they go to bed, so that when they wake up they're a little bit less tight than maybe they would be. There's any number of things that could happen depending on what the player is, depending on what the nagging injury may or may not be, to help them feel better because it's their job as Division I athletes to take care of their bodies. That's their job. And at the end of the day, your body is your most valuable commodity. The better you feel, the better you're going to play. And that is a process. It's hard to feel really good at the beginning of the week because you're just coming off a game. You're practicing. Some weeks you might be hitting. Some weeks you may not. But it's a short week. But now, as you get closer to the game, the on-the-field load gets lessened. There's more time off the field to make sure you're treating yourself the right way.
All right, let's take a timeout. More time for your telephone calls at 855-FLOOD-44, 855-356-6344, or tweet us your questions at @RFootball. Rutgers getting ready for UCF on Thursday night. More from Brother Jimmy's in downtown New Brunswick. In a moment, this is the Kyle Flood Show.
The chalkboard. Sweeps, screens. Every play is drawn up and studied. When you can visualize a play, you can execute a play. The same is true in business. The more visibility you have in your supply chain, the better your business performs. That's why UPS lets you track what comes in and what goes out. Logistics is our game. See how we can help yours at thenewlogistics.com. UPS, official logistics partner of the NCAA.
You may already know that AT&T is the nation's fastest 4G LTE network. And now independent research has confirmed that AT&T 4G LTE is also the most reliable. Whether you're connecting with family or getting the job done, you want a wireless network you can count on. AT&T, the nation's fastest and now most reliable 4G LTE network. Rethink possible. AT&T reminds you to never text and drive. It can wait.
Speed claim based on national carriers' average 4G LTE download speeds. Reliability claim based on data transfer completion rates on nationwide 4G LTE networks. 4G LTE not available everywhere.
This is the Rutgers IMG Sports Network.
Rutgers football fans, it's time to join the 1,200-plus members of the Rutgers Touchdown Club in supporting Rutgers football 365 days a year. To become a member, please visit us at RutgersTDClub.com. Your membership includes regular meetings with Rutgers football coaches, discounts from local vendors, bus trips and giveaways, and a whole lot more. It's time for you to show your Rutgers spirit by joining the Touchdown Club today. Also, please support the team by purchasing 50-50 chances prior to each home game in the stadium parking lots. Visit us at RutgersTDClub.com for more information. Go Rutgers! Rutgers.
When it comes to football, you want your favorite players to stay healthy and on top of their game. Well, AmeriHealth New Jersey wants the same thing for its members. That's why AmeriHealth New Jersey has you covered with the answers you need to understand how the new healthcare law is changing the way you buy health insurance. AmeriHealth believes the more you know about your options, the less stress you'll feel. No one cares more about keeping New Jersey healthy, and no one is doing more to keep rates affordable. To learn more about health insurance that pays, visit AmeriHealthNJ.com. AmeriHealth New Jersey is a proud sponsor of Rutgers football.
Back at Brother Jimmy's, downtown New Brunswick, it is the Kyle Flood Show, Rutgers and UCF on Thursday night on ESPN. Tonight on ESPN, you've got the Patriots visiting the Carolina Panthers, and one Duron Harmon getting an opportunity to start for the first time. I think it might bear pointing out, you now have 4 players from last year's team four players from last year's secondary that are now on NFL rosters. And not only on NFL rosters, but playing considerable time. Marcus Cooper is having an outstanding year for the Kansas City Chiefs. We saw him a little bit last night. Not to mention Duron. We know that he and Logan Ryan are both having good years for the Patriots. And Brandon Jones, now with the Giants on their practice squad at the moment. So I guess the first question is, I don't want to say it makes it a little more palatable, but you have 4 guys in the NFL from that position, and that's an area that you haven't played as well as you would like this year. Is that not a coincidence?
Well, yeah, I would say that they're probably related. We've got some younger players out there, and the reality is this: hey, it's a high-performance business. Everybody's aware of that. And when you're 5-4, and we're coming off a game like we did, nobody wants to hear that Darius Hamilton didn't play, that Lorenzo Waters barely played, that 4 guys are in the NFL right now from last year's secondary. But it's all part of the process. And we've got some excellent young players in the secondary right now that, even though it doesn't always look like it, they're getting better. And a great example is a guy like Anthony Chaffee, who breaks up a pass in the end zone, and they caught one in the end zone on him. And that corner position could be a lonely place. It's a little bit like left tackle. Sometimes they're going to get you, but it was great to see him make a play. It was great to see him force a fumble. It was great to see him play well on special teams again. And again, he's a guy that just gets better and better, and I think that's exciting for us. But to go back to some of those guys in the NFL, I'm certainly excited for all of them, but probably because it's just happened so recently, I'm really, really pumped up for Juice, Brandon Jones with the Giants. And he was not only an excellent player for us, but an excellent special teams player. And that's what leads me to believe that at some point in this season, he's going to get on that active roster. He's just too good a special teams player.
With Brandon, and people don't realize, but it came to light late in the year last year, that he played the majority of last season incredibly injured with, was it a hairline fracture or some sort of fracture in his leg, correct?
Correct.
So when he had the impact that he did last season, in your mind, it's just make it all the more remarkable that he could do what he did.
It's a testament to him, and he's a tough guy, and I know it's never easy when you're trying to break into that league and you think you got a chance to make it and you don't, and everybody always says, hey, you got to keep working, you're going to get another chance, and that's not an easy thing to do every day. These guys are not used to that, and he did an excellent job of it. He was ready when they called, and when he got up there, certainly he performed well enough that they've kept him.
Marcus Cooper, somebody posed a question a few weeks ago on Twitter, where do you think he would have been drafted now, considering the year that he's had and considering what some of the other higher drafted corners are not doing? I mean, I don't want to mention any names, D. Milner, but some of them are not playing particularly well. So with that being the case, I don't want to say are you surprised, but to see Marcus have the success that he's had so far, is it a little bit surprising?
It's not surprising to me, and I don't know. All I can tell you is that from the moment Marcus Cooper entered our program, he did things the way we wanted him to do them, and he came in I'm one of the people who remembers him coming into the program from Bloomfield High School, and he came into the program, and he was a wide receiver, and then played wide receiver, I want to say, for 2 years, really broke into our lineup as a special teams guy, was one of the better frontline guys we had on kickoff return that I remember specifically, and then he was on our punt block team, and then all of a sudden he was playing corner, and it's like, goodness gracious, this guy's become a really good player. And not only is he a really good player, he's 6'1". Now, he'd probably tell you he's 6'2", but he's not. He's 6'1", and a really, really fine football player. And 6'1" corners are not easy to find.
With Duran in particular, Coach, as we said, he's getting his first start tonight. What made him the player that he was at Rutgers?
Duran Harmon is an excellent person first, and one of the really great leaders we've had in our program over the last 9 years. And even despite the fact that he wasn't a captain, I know for a fact that the younger players would gravitate towards him, and he was almost like an old soul, so to speak. And when you see him, or when I was able to watch him balance, the academic pursuits that he had, and he finished as an excellent student, and the athletic pursuits that he had, wanting to play in the NFL, and then you see him around his son Chris, and the father that he was every time he was around Chris, but also knowing the responsibilities that he had, within the program. He really did a great job of balancing all those things. And I think that is probably what has eased his transition into the league now. And it does not surprise me one bit that he'll start the game tonight. I can't wait to see his headshot on the screen as he says Duran Harmon, Rutgers University.
And that going back to this year's secondary, you mentioned Anthony being productive as he has and still learning on the job. Ruhan Peel, he's gone over a sack, a forced fumble in the Temple game, interception the other day. You said earlier today the position is all about production. So what has made Ruhan productive so far in his opportunities and leading to you listing him as a starter this week?
Sure, and I think defensive football in general is about production. And that was something, as I said in my press conference earlier today, that I learned from Joe Gardy at Hofstra, who had been the defensive coordinator of the Sack Exchange of the Jets back in the 80s. And he would always say that defensive football is about production. It's about making plays. Certainly you have to do your job within the scheme, but at some point you're going to be asked to make a play, and you have to. If you want to be a difference maker on defense, you have to make plays. And Ruhan has had limited snaps, but he's made plays. He forced a fumble. He's had an interception. He's just done a tremendous job in limited role, and I think because of that, he's earned the right to go in there and start, and I'm excited to see what he can do. The only thing I'm disappointed in is that he got sick yesterday and couldn't practice, because I haven't been sick since the second grade, Chris.
Not at all.
Nope. The only people who get sick are people who have time.
Oh, stop.
Just telling you what my father told me.
All right, we'll take a timeout. We've got more to do. We'll get your keys to the matchup this week with UCF momentarily. Rutgers.
Spencer's building.
The Central Florida Golden Knights on Thursday night. One more break. This is the Kyle Flood Show.
Excuse me, is that your Diet Pepsi?
Sophia Vergara. Hi, yeah, this is my Diet Pepsi. I love Diet Pepsi.
Do you love every sip?
Nothing is better than drinking a refreshing Diet Pepsi and just reveling in its crisp, delicious taste.
Well, you know what they say. If you love something, let it go. And if it comes back, it was meant to be.
So I should set this Diet Pepsi free and wait for it to come back. Then it'll be more delicious than ever. Would you hold my Diet Pepsi for me?
I'd love to.
Thank you. What happens now?
Go, get out of here. It can't come back to you if you're standing next to it.
Thanks, Sophia. I'll wait for you, Diet Pepsi.
The only thing better than an ice-cold Diet Pepsi is a free ice-cold Diet Pepsi.
Love every sip at DietPepsi.com.
This is the Rutgers IMG Sports Network.
Rutgers University's Center for Management Development is an international leader in delivering innovative educational solutions to strengthen the business skills of our clients. We have a focus on today's professional with contemporary programs to meet the demands of an ever-changing business environment. Find your program today by visiting our website, cmd.rutgers.edu, and upon registering, use the special 10% discount code RURadio or call us directly at 732-640-1853.
What's up, Rutgers? Y'all ready for some football? Brother Jimmy's in New Brunswick is your headquarters for Scarlet Knight football, as well as your home for the Jets, Giants, and all your favorite NFL teams. With over 30 HD TVs, we serve up all the NFL action on Sunday and Monday nights with amazing food and drink specials all game long. So come on down to Brother Jimmy's and put some South in your mouth. For reservations and event information, visit us at BrotherJimmy's.com. Brother Jimmy's Barbecue, located at 5 Easton Avenue, New Brunswick, New Jersey. See y'all soon.
Couple of minutes before the top of the hour. We've got a little bit of time left in this week's edition of the Kyle Flood Show. We are at Brother Jimmy's in downtown New Brunswick. You've got some special guests here tonight.
We do. We've got some guys who are really helping us win football games here. Phil Lewis, one of our wide receivers. We got a Desmond Peoples, one of our running backs. We got Joe Loman, one of our linebackers. And these guys have done an excellent job in practice this week, helping us get ready. And it's not going to be too long before they're helping us on game day as well.
You know, it's a tricky situation for those guys because I don't know that people know just how much goes onto their plate, the younger guys who are trying to help you prepare for these games. Because not only do they have to know what you're doing, but they now have to know what the opponent's doing as well to help you prepare.
No doubt, and you have to be a selfless player, to do that and to go out there and give great effort. And these guys jumped out to me at practice, and that's why I wanted them here tonight. And there was one other guy who had a class conflict named Razon Gross from North Jersey, and he could not be here with us, and because he's in class. But if these guys are nice, I think it looks like they got a bag. They may have something to bring back to Razon. But as I said before, there's a lot of guys who've come through our program who had the roles that they have now, and ultimately became starters, not just starters, but moved on to the NFL and captains of our football team.
Let's get one quick call in before the end of the show. That's Matt in East Brunswick. Matt, we've got about a little less than a minute. What's going on?
I'll make it quick, guys. Thanks for taking the call.
Sure.
Coach, we've seen Chase Dodd play with us for the last 4 years. Gary Nova now in his third year. Do you feel like Mike Bamonte, Blake Rankin, or Chris Laviano would be quarterbacks that are ready to play right now?
Do I think they'd be ready to play right now? I think Mike Bamonte takes reps in practice. He would give us a chance to win. I think for Chris and for Blake it would be hard because they're not taking reps with the offense. They're working on the scout team. So it's really not a matter of whether or not they can throw the ball well enough or get it down the field far enough. That's really not it. It's just they're not taking the reps in our offense. I don't know it would be fair to them to put them in the game right now, but without the preparation time. But I do think we've got three quarterbacks that we can win with. And I said this today in reference to something else, but it stands true in your question. The players that go on the field every day in practice and the players that go on the field every Saturday or Thursday night or Friday night, whatever it happens to be, are the players that we make a decision as a coaching staff give us the best chance to win.
Coach, I want to ask you one philosophically kind of quick about the quarterback situation, not situation, but development of quarterbacks, the younger guys that you mentioned. What do you look for in particular, first and foremost, from those guys that tells you that they're going to be ready to play and how their development's going?
I think for the younger guys, the first place you get to watch them as an individual. You just get a chance to watch them throw the routes. Are they throwing them on time? Are they throwing them with the proper location of the ball? Those are things that you see right away. That's usually done on air. And then you move to things like what we call underscale, which is like an inside scale period where you get to watch them throw against the defense, or a one-on-one period where you get to watch them throw against the defense. And then ultimately that moves to 7-on-7, where you have everybody there with the linemen. And then you get to watch them throw against full field coverages. And then ultimately you get to watch them in teams. So it's really a process of development, and depending on how many quarterbacks you have and what stage they're at, sometimes that process has to be a little bit faster than others. Guys like Chase and Gary played as freshmen. Chris Laviano is a true freshman right now who's redshirting, and Blake is a redshirt freshman who redshirted last year. So they're at different stages. We probably have more quality quarterbacks on our team right now than we've ever had.
I got about 20 seconds, so how about your keys?
Well, I will deviate slightly from what I would say. There's no doubt that when you play against UCF, you have to stop them from running the ball. A team that wants to run the ball 60% of the time and has two backs that are averaging over 5 yards a carry, in their style of offense. The last time we played on Thursday night, we were in a very similar situation, and we had success doing it, and that'll be one of the keys to the game. But I think the other part of that is we have to limit the big plays. In the games like Houston and the game like Cincinnati, where it gets away from us a little bit, it's just too many big plays. And I know that our defense and our players are working very hard to make sure that we limit that this week as we go into this game. And offensively, we have to run the football. And then we have to make great decisions and protect the football, not just when we run it, but when we're passing it.
See you down in Florida.
I'm looking forward to it, Chris. Can't wait to get back on the field.
Thursday night, Rutgers and UCF. Scarlet Knights try to go 1-0. Thanks for joining us this week on the Kyle Flood Show.
You've been listening to the Kyle Flood Show, live from Brother Jimmy's in New Brunswick. The executive producers of the Rutgers IMG Sports Network are George Pine and Ben Sutton. Associate producers Joe Potter, Chris Ferris, and John Willey. Network manager Brad Law. I'm staff announcer Carl Shannon. Special thanks to Rutgers Athletic Director Julie Herman and the staff and management of flagship station WCTC. The Kyle Flood Show is an exclusive presentation of IMG, America's home for college sports.